Welcome back to another episode of the Lofty Lenders Homebuyer Education, where we explore tips, tricks, and stories that help you plan for your next home purchase. Whether you're a first-time homebuyer, a move-up buyer, an investor, or just looking to learn, we hope you gain a little bit of knowledge today. Today, we are exploring how to budget for your first home without being house poor.
Yes.
Charlie, are you house poor? Do you like to spend all your money on your house and nothing else?
Well, I mean, we have been at that stage. So when you start out, it does feel that way. And then when you have kids and you do a project, sometimes it feels that way again.
So, like you said, Charlie, buying your house is that your first house is exciting, right? But oftentimes we talk to people all the time and they say, well, I wish I wouldn't have spent quite that much on the first house because my payment is really tight, Kyle. Is there a way you can make my payment lower? Can I push my loan out to 40 years, 50 years, 100 years? So that way my payment's not so expensive. And of course, there's talk about that in the market right now with Trump and the government wanting to talk about extended term loans. And those could be on the horizon, but
I mean, they're out there. They're just not here. I mean, you're going to have to go to
Sure.
Japan.
Well, California has some 40-year loans, but I mean, I don't have
And
the
I
money to
love
pay for a
sushi,
California
but
house. So
that's a long way to travel for sushi and just a 100-year mortgage.
yeah, so fair. Japan's a little ways away. So, I mean, we just want to talk to you guys about making sure that you're setting realistic expectations for what your payment should be. Really, Charlie and I talk about this all the time, but budget is really important. And I talked to somebody just the other day and they said, well, I don't know, Kyle, I just let me know what the payment's going to be and then I'll make sure I can make it. Well, no, that's not how a budget works. A budget is you planning every dollar where it's going to go and knowing I love to go out to eat on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. So I need to make sure I've got enough money set aside for all 3 of those days, for all the meals that we do those 3 days, so that I don't have to change my lifestyle just because I bought a house.
Yeah. And there's a lot to be said with it's no different than anything. Like when you're saving for your car, you're saving for your house, you're saving for paying a debt off that you regretted and then it took time to get there. It all just takes discipline. The hardest part with a house is it's a big dollar amount. You don't have to have a lot down, but the mental anguish because it's a big purchase price, it's a much harder feat if you do it by yourself and really just try to do the same thing you've always done. I think that's where you and I really try to focus is encouragement and have it to where get some ideas. They're going to help make little shifts, not something you have to, do a 180 and try to go in the other direction when that's not what you're used to.
Well, and Charlie, I think one of the biggest challenges that we face is how do I explain to somebody that the lifestyle that they currently have maybe isn't necessarily going to work when they own a house? And it's not to be mean. I'm not trying to be rude, but, ordering DoorDash every day for food, I mean, we joke about it, but it's real. We see it a lot. And going out to
is.
dinner for every meal. If you're trying to save to buy a house, doing all those things, you're not going to be able to afford it. You got to find out what a grocery store is.
Yeah. Well, and you got to try to put yourself where you're going to be. It tends to be a lot easier. So if you can start to imagine, what am I going to do when I'm in the house? When you're in an apartment or you're in living quarters that you're just not a fan of, you don't spend a lot of time there. It's a different mentality when you own your home. You have a lot of personal responsibility at home now because you're the owner. You have a lot of pride in your home because hey, this is mine. I got to have an outdoor patio. I got to have, I don't know, maybe have an indoor patio. I don't know. But you could do anything you want. It's your house. So focus on the fact that your apartment doesn't let you have a dog and you will be able to have a dog. So you're going to have dog expenses, but you get to look forward to something. It's not just a different living quarters. You get to make all the rules.
And I also think about some people want to have the nicest house, but then they're also the same people that travel all the time. They're always gone. Maybe they belong to a big fraternity, sorority, and they've got weddings every weekend all over the country, and they've got parties and trips, and they just do stuff all the time. Those are maybe not necessarily the people that need to have the biggest house because really that's just a place for your stuff to live. You're not really even living there because on the weeknights you're barely home and on the weekends you're gone. Me and my wife personally, we don't travel a lot. We don't do a lot of stuff out of the home, so we would like a lot more square footage. I mean, me being 6'10", I want more, vertical footage, square foot. Yeah, it's $180 to raise the door by 4 inches. Just in case you were wondering. It's really expensive to go from a normal 6'8" door to a 7-foot door.
Yeah. But again,
Crazy.
it's a good point, Kyle. It's priorities. What do you want? And when you put your money towards a specific thing, there's no right or wrong. I think that's the most fun part when we get to talk to people. Is we're not here to tell you what to do. We want you to have the stuff you want. I mean, if DoorDash is what you want, that's fine. But you don't get to have DoorDash and the fancy Audi and the fancy house and all the vacations. Now, if you make enough money, sure, there are those people. But let's just spend your money where you get the most bang for your buck. And normally the instant gratification is the hardest thing to overcome because you get to feel like you're keeping up with the Joneses. And we honestly don't care if you keep up with the Joneses. What do you want? You want the 7-foot doors. Great. Let's save for that because then you don't have to duck. And when you get older, I mean, another couple of years, you'll hunch.
I'm already shrinking as it is. Let's be honest.
But I mean, that's important to you. And so having that is a very wise thing to spend your money on. And I love that you thought of that when you're doing your building because that's all the little nitpicks that we always think about or try to encourage other people thinking about. It's something that once you put those short doors in, that's not an easy change. And it's
Well,
expensive.
tell me this. I've brought this up before, but when I first started the job, I came to you and I said, Charlie, I don't know what I'm doing. I think I want to buy a house. I don't know how to buy a house. My parents don't own their house. They've lived in it for 30 years. I don't know the first thing about owning a house. And you said, okay, well, let's pull up your budget. What's your budget look like? And I said, well, what do you mean my budget and buying a house? Or I never put those two things together. Explain to me if you were, tried to throw yourself back 10 years ago, whenever that was, when I first bought a house, 12 years ago, in fact. What were you doing? What do you do with people as they come in and say, Charlie, I don't know what to do. I want to buy a house and I'm trying to make a plan. What do I do?
I think it's a massive difference from 12 years ago, unfortunately, because 12 years ago, it was fairly regimented on what normal was and what your access was. So a budget meant something completely different in a way of managing it then than it does now. Now you have all these different ways, and they're very different ways. Back easy math in school where I had this much money and I subtracted out what I paid and I added in my paycheck. You just did add and subtract. And now we've got a lot of cool apps, but they can get more complicated. So I think really what we have to do now is see where people are at and try to meet people there because some of the app stuff is really, really handy. And other times it's just really convoluted and makes a bigger problem. You don't need to get fancy. I think one of the craziest things we see is somebody who doesn't have a lot of spare money, which is a lot of us. And that's okay, but some of them have 6, 7, 8, 9 checking savings accounts. Why? So you're constantly moving money from one to the other and you're trying really hard. That takes a lot of energy. And we want to see people make money on the money they save, but not at the detriment where you're moving money around all the time and it just stresses you out and you're not really making that much progress. So some of the apps come in really handy and we acknowledge where people can do that, but then we just got to be honest with ourselves and, look at what you're spending. Now we look at, or I've been pushing more, especially this last 2 years, look at your stuff on a weekly basis. That's where the apps come in very handy. You can look at a week. It's not overwhelming. Checking account, credit card, whatever you use, a week at a time. Maybe you can try to slap your own wrist and say, darn it, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I can cut that one out. That's pretty easy. When you look at an entire month, it can get overwhelming. So I think that's the big difference from before. There's a lot more transactions every month these days compared to 10, 12 years ago, where we didn't have as many choices. Now more choices equals more opportunity to spend and the reoccurring subscriptions and all that stuff. It's just a lot more complicated than it used to be.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about reoccurring subscriptions. I had a guy reach out to me just the other day and say, hey, Kyle, I checked my Rocket Money account and it said that I've got a late payment on one of my accounts or something. I reached out to the creditor and they said I don't. And now I'm confused because Rocket Money says I do, but my bank account says that I don't. I said, well, who is the creditor? Right. And if the creditor says you're not late, then it's clearly some sort of an algorithm glitch. But to your point, there are so many different software, so many different things you can put your money into, you can use. They might be great. They might not be great. I mean, Rocket Money is advertising all over the place. I've been seeing that one all over. I don't personally use it because I have a spreadsheet to track the number of subscriptions I have. I don't need somebody to tell me that.
Are we talking about spreadsheets today?
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, we are talking about budgeting, and you and I both we taught a class last year a little bit, and one of the gals comes up and says, "I still budget everything with my spreadsheet. I put my money in, and then I write down where all my expenses are going to go." And it was a very basic, just I know I've got these 5 expenses this month, and this is where my money's going to go, and the rest is going to go into a savings. And I try to give myself $100 a month just to have some fun with or whatever. It was impressive.
Yeah. Well, I think there's 2 things right there, and I think you probably got my old spreadsheet that was for a year. And so that budget is, I still think, way better than even any of these very nuanced, down to the penny budgets that you can get that you're tracking constantly, which Again, in theory is good, but it doesn't anticipate. And I think that's one of the biggest things. You can only budget for what's in your head, and you don't budget for tires. We all know we need tires. I don't know when I need tires, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. And I think that's where we tend to try and suggest, especially with house budget, once you get there, maintenance is an unknown. You just don't know what you're going to need when you're going to need it. And those are the scary ones. When you have little projects that you want to do, that's great. You budget when you have extra money. But when you have an oops, water heater stops working. You can take a cold shower for a few days, but it's not fun. So you really, all right, how do I get this money? And, $1,000 or $1,500, whatever it's going to cost you, it's not just the $1,500, oops, I'm going to go get something fixed. It's a little bit extra that not everybody has sitting around. So the anticipation of things is probably where I like our spreadsheet better, because I love throwing stuff in for a year. It sounds daunting, but really it's the same thing month over month. You just have a couple oddballs. And so you might have the same consistent fall back to school. We spend an extra $400 to send the kids to school because we get backpacks or whatever else. Great. We don't know what it is, but it's about $400. So we can throw those once a year items in there, and it tends to be easier to regulate.
It's kind of like thinking about if you have an FSA or an HSA account, and at the beginning of the year, you're like, I'm probably going to spend $500 on medical supplies of some sort. I'm just going to stick that $500 away. I hate that. I hate the fact that you've got to try to determine at the beginning of the year how much you're going to spend on a flexible spending account. It's just stupid because I have absolutely no idea what's going to come up over the next 12 months. But it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of the budget. If you always pay yourself first. So always put that money away first. And then, you have your important stuff, your housing, your car, you have the big tickets that you have a little bit of wiggle room, but not so much. And then you have utilities, and then you have discretionary. And like you said, you want to give yourself that fun account, but the fun account shouldn't come first, and paying yourself shouldn't come last. So it's doing that stuff in the right order. And sometimes it's just practice and someone politely tapping you on the shoulder, reminding you, hey, we talked about this. I know it's not normal, but once you do it for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, it gets to be more normal. And I love the fact when you do get into that budget and it starts to work, we love seeing people light up when they get their paycheck. It's like, hot dog, that's actually my money. Versus most people get their money in. It's like, why? It's already gone. I don't even worry about it. That's exhausting because then you work every day and you just don't feel like you're getting ahead.
So break down for me then. We talk about this like it's common sense to us, but there's some people out there that may not have heard this term before. But when you say pay yourself first, what do you mean?
It's basically the money that you say you're going to save, and most people put that last. It's like I have a goal of saving $100. Great. I would love to see you change your automatic deposit from your paycheck and put $100 directly in your savings account. It's still there. It's still your money. It's not gone. You didn't spend it. It's just you moved it there first. It's kind of like doing your 401k. It comes out before you see anything. And then the rest of your money goes into checking. That makes it a lot easier to where now, you've kind of tied your hands. It might be harder to get. It's still easy access in case, oh crap, I need my money back. But you start to get in that habit. And you can make it a little more aggressive because it is still there for you. And that's the part that when you see that savings account start to grow, you get that little bit of just more self-worth and more pride because like, I did it. It's there. And it makes you understand that your money that's left over, it's easier to allocate because if you wait till the end, stuff's always going to come up. It's like you and I in our time. We want to do some of these other things. We have to put it first. You're just not going to get it done.
And I think the reason we wanted to do this episode today is because as home prices rise and rates continue to fluctuate, I think budget is really more important than ever. And I also see a lot of people that have FOMO when it comes to, well, I got to keep up with the Joneses. I got friends who live in this neighborhood in Waukee and I really want to live there. I hope that I want to get this house and, hopefully my income catches up so that I'm not house broke, but I just want to get into this house. I want to be near my friends. And then you start thinking like, do I want to have the lifestyle where I am house broke? I'm stuck. And we oftentimes have conversations with customers of, hey, you're at 48% debt ratio, and that's of your gross income.
Yeah.
You
Half your
are,
money's going out to stuff.
yeah, it's very, very tight. And do you want to be making that much of your income go towards required expenses and have very little to be able to save and spend on fun stuff?
Yeah. And two things with that. I know we're going through a lot here and we break these up and and kick stuff out. But I think one of the most important things when you said like keeping up with the Joneses, We all have that. It could be with your car. It could be with your housing location. It could be that you have certain things at your house. I would love to try and have more people focus. If you want to pick somebody that you're really trying to keep up with, why not just try to beat them? Most of the people that are buying the fancy things, they're just leveraged, and they're in that just turnover of I can make the payments, but I can't get ahead. Beat the Joneses and don't have that debt. Buy something that is where you need it to be. Maybe you need a certain school district. Maybe you need to be close because you have family that's taking care of the kids. So you're in a little bit nicer neighborhood, but it's because they can walk to grandma and grandpa's house, or whatever the scenario is. That just means you have to cut back on something else. I mean, I did that when I bought my house. I bought a 4+ bedroom house as a single guy. Well, what kind of moron does that? I mean, why? But that's when my wife and I were dating, not engaged yet. And we were a little bit older, so we knew we're getting there. I hope she was going to say yes. And then we'd probably have kids fairly quickly. And we did. And we've been there a long time. So it was an okay risk, but I went into that with a reason. But I also went into that to where I had a 12-year-old car. So I spent some money on maintenance to make sure that sucker would last, but I wasn't getting a new car. And then when we did the house, we didn't spend anything on the really pretty, shiny stuff. The house wasn't pretty. Like, it was a nice house, but the water lines were done. The electric was done. We got all the stuff that needed done because we bought it from, grandma who'd lived there for over 50 years. So then a few years later, we started getting in and making it really nice once we had our baseline. And so, but it was hard because, we'd look at neighbors who had really nice built-ins or new paint job or fancy floors. We wanted it. I just didn't want to sacrifice, especially when at that point, now we were spending money on kids, which are, really cheap. It's like $20.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, a few actionable takeaways for today as we wrap this up. So, one, create a full monthly budget before shopping. If you have questions on any of that, Charlie and I love to review people's spending to help you put together a budget. I know that I've had customers send me over their bank statements, and we've just gone through them a little bit just to help you, at least me ask you the questions, and you kind of put together your own budget based on some of those questions I'm asking you. Use the 28-36 rule as a guide, which is essentially 28% of your gross income going towards your mortgage payment, 36% going towards all of your debt. That's numbers that we work on. That's numbers that we look at. But ultimately, I have people all the time who come in and they're like, I honestly, I could afford $2,500 for a monthly payment, but I really want to keep it to $2,000 because I know that I want to be able to have those fun things to do, and I don't want to be house broke. And we've got people right now who are buying a house that they're qualified for $300,000 house. And they're like, we want to stick below 170. Our number's 170. I don't know where 170 came from other than they sat down, they did their budget, and they knew exactly what they could afford. I loved it.
No, that's awesome.
And finally, don't forget the future. There's a couple of things. There's taxes, maintenance, unexpected expenses that Charlie's talked about. This also doesn't necessarily have to be your forever home. And oftentimes we hear people say, oh, I want this to be my forever home. How many times have you actually talked to somebody and found out that their forever home was in fact their forever home? And usually it's, oh, this was my starter home after I got into it for a couple of years. Now I want to go and build something, or I want, like, your mindset changes, your mentality changes, life, everything's changing so fast these days that don't look at it as a forever home. That's a lot of pressure. Look at it as a home right now. We'll see how it goes.
And again, the fun part of doing a lot of this is making it your own, but buy something that is adequate. You can always make it better, but if you buy something that is everything you want, you're going to pay everything you have typically. So just find that happy medium. There's a good mix, and just got to talk through it.
Yep. So with the right budget, you can step into that home ownership confidently and without becoming house poor. So follow us on all social media platforms and subscribe to the Lofty Lender podcast for more honest conversations, expert tips, and real life stories from buyers like you. And as always, stay curious, and we'll see you next week on the Lofty Lender.